I know you're not sure why you're reading this right now. Or maybe you are sure. Maybe you're sitting somewhere with a cup of something that's gone cold. Maybe you're in bed with the light from your phone the only thing keeping you from the dark. Maybe you just finished something. A workday, a conversation, another version of yourself that you put on like a coat, and now you're taking it off, and underneath, there's just you. And you don't know what to do with that. There's a question you keep asking yourself, but you never say it out loud because it sounds shallow or privileged, or like you should already know the answer. Am I chasing money or am I chasing security? And you roll it around in your head at red lights, in the shower, when the water is too hot, when you check your bank account and feel nothing, no matter what the number says. When you see someone post something about a side hustle or a promotion or a vacation that looks like it healed something in them and you feel a pinch you don't want to name. But you tell yourself it's about survival. Of course it's about survival. Rent is due. There's always something due. The math of your life runs in the background of your mind all day long. Like a low hum, you stop noticing until it gets loud. And sometimes it gets loud. A car repair, a medical bill, the difference between what you make and what you need to feel okay. Not even happy. Just okay. Just like you can breathe without checking the price tag. Just like you can order what you want without doing the math first. But then there's the other part. The part that makes you feel ashamed when you admit it even to yourself. The part that looks at someone else as life and wonders why they have more. Why they seem to move through the world with a kind of ease you can't find. Why they get to do work that feels like it matters while you spend your hours doing something that leaves you hollow by the end of the day. And you think, maybe, if you just made more money, that feeling would go away. Maybe if you had a different title. Maybe if you could finally afford the thing you've been saving for the thing that's supposed to mean you made it. You don't even know what made it looks like anymore. You used to have a picture in your head. A salary. A city. Kind of apartment with light coming through the windows in a certain way. And now you're not sure if you're chasing that picture or if you're just running away from the feeling of being behind. Of having missed the memo everyone else got about how to do this right. It's hard to tell the difference between wanting something and needing to prove something. Hard to know if the long hours you work are because you're building a life or because you're afraid of what happens if you stop. If you stop moving. If you stop climbing. If you just sit still and let the silence fill the room and ask yourself what you actually want without any of the noise from outside. You avoid that question a lot. You fill the space with podcasts and scrolling and plans for the next thing. The next job. The next move. The next version of you that will finally feel like enough. And it's exhausting, but it's also familiar. The exhaustion becomes part of your identity. You tell yourself you're a grinder. You tell yourself you're ambitious. You tell yourself you're just doing what you have to do. And maybe that's true. But maybe it's also true that somewhere along the way you started believing that the amount you make is the same thing as the amount you're worth. You can feel that belief in your body sometimes. When you walk into a place where everyone seems to have more. When you talk to someone from high school who did something impressive, and you feel yourself shrink a little. When you check your savings account on a Sunday night and do the math for the 100th time, even though nothing has changed since the last time you checked. There's a tightness in your chest that you've gotten so used to you almost don't notice it anymore. Almost. But then there are moments when you do notice it. When you're lying in bed at night and your brain won't shut off, and you're running through every decision you've made and wondering if you chose wrong, if you should have taken that other job, if you should have stayed in that city, if you should have listened to the part of you that wanted something else instead of the part that wanted to be safe. You replay moments like a highlight reel of all the times you chose stability over something riskier. And you don't know if you regret it or if you're grateful for it. Maybe both at the same time. It's confusing because money and security are supposed to be the same thing. That's what you were taught. Get a good job, and then one day you'll be secure and you can relax and enjoy your life. But that day keeps moving. You hit one goal and there's another one right behind it. You make more and suddenly what felt like enough before doesn't feel like enough anymore. You get the raise and you're happy for about a week, and then you're already thinking about the next one, already looking at what other people have and measuring yourself against it. And somewhere underneath all of that, there's a quieter voice. A voice you try not to listen to because it makes everything harder. The voice that asks if you're even happy, not in a theoretical way, not in a win. I finally get their way, but right now, in this moment, with the life you actually have, and you don't know how to answer that because you're not sure you've given yourself permission to ask it. You're too busy, too focused, too responsible to be wondering about happiness when there are bills to pay and goals to hit and a future to build. But the question doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It just gets quieter. And then sometimes it gets loud at the strangest moments. When you're at a dinner with people you like, but you feel disconnected. When you finish something you worked hard on and the satisfaction lasts for a second, and then disappears. When you're walking down the street and you see someone laughing in a way that looks real, and you realize you don't remember the last time you laughed like that. Not the kind of laugh that comes from a funny video or a joke. The kind that comes from feeling light, from forgetting for a moment that you have to keep it all together. You've gotten so good at keeping it together. That's the part people don't see. They see the job and the apartment and the way you show up. They see the version of you that has it handled, and you let them see that because it's easier than explaining the constant hum of anxiety that lives under everything. The feeling that at any moment, something could fall apart. That you're one unexpected expense away from not being okay. That the security you're chasing feels like it's always just out of reach no matter how close you get. And maybe that's the real thing. Maybe it's not about the money at all. Maybe it's about the feeling of never being safe enough, never being certain, never being able to let go of the tight grip you have on your life. Because if you let go even for a second, you might lose everything you've worked for. You see it in the way you check your phone for work messages on weekends. In the way you say yes to things you don't want to do because saying no feels too risky. In the way you measure your worth in numbers that can be taken away. There's a loneliness in that. A loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from feeling like you can't explain this to anyone without sounding ungrateful or anxious, or like you're complaining about something that most people would be happy to have. You have a job. You have options. You have a life that looks fine from the outside. So why does it feel so heavy? Why does the thought of doing this for another 30 years make you feel like you can't breathe? Why does the thing that was supposed to give you freedom feel like it's holding you in place? You tell yourself you're being dramatic, that everyone feels this way, that this is just what it means to be an adult. And part of you believes that. Part of you thinks that if you just work harder, you'll get to the place where it feels different, where the numbers add up to something that feels like enough. But another part of you is starting to wonder if enough is a myth. If the goalposts will always move because the goalposts are not the problem. The problem is the part of you that keeps moving them. And that part is loud. That part has a voice that sounds like your own but meaner. A voice that tells you you're not doing enough. that other people your age are further along, that you should be making more, saving more, achieving more, that you're wasting time, that you're falling behind. And you try to push that voice away, but it's persistent. It's been with you so long, you don't know who you would be without it. You wonder sometimes if you would work as hard if no one was watching, if there was no one to impress, no one to compare yourself to, no one to prove wrong. Would you still want what you want, or would you want something else entirely? Something quieter, something that doesn't require you to keep climbing until your hands are raw. And you don't know the answer to that. You're almost afraid to find out. Because if you let yourself want something different, then you have to admit that you've been chasing something that was never going to make you feel the way you wanted to feel. So you keep going. You keep doing the work. You keep checking the numbers. You keep telling yourself that when you get there, it will feel different. And maybe it will. But maybe the next promotion will be the one that makes you feel secure. Maybe the next raise will be the one that lets you breathe. Maybe the next move will be the one that finally feels like home. And maybe you'll keep chasing that feeling forever. Or maybe one day you'll stop. Not because you give up, but because you realize that the thing you've been chasing was never meant to be caught. And that's a hard thing to sit with. Harder than the long hours. Harder than the anxiety. Harder than the constant math running in the background of your mind. Because if the thing you've been building your whole life around was never going to make you feel secure, then what was the point? What were all those years for? What were all those sacrifices for? What were the nights you stayed late, and the weekends you worked, and the relationships you let fade for? You don't want to think about that. You don't want to go there. So you open your phone. You check your email. You make a plan for tomorrow. You do something that feels productive. Anything to avoid the quiet. But the quiet comes anyway. It comes in the moments when you're alone in your car. When you're standing in line at the grocery store. When you're lying in bed and the room is dark. And you've done everything you were supposed to do today. And yet you feel hollow. And in those moments, you can't pretend anymore. You can't distract yourself. You can't tell yourself it's just about the money, or just about the security, or just about getting to the next thing. In those moments, you have to sit with the fact that you don't know what you're chasing anymore. Or maybe you do know, and you're afraid to say it out loud. You're chasing the feeling of being okay, of being safe, of being enough. And you thought money would give you that. You thought having enough would make the fear go away. But the fear isn't gone. It's just different. It used to be fear of not having enough. Now it's fear of losing what you have. Fear of it not being enough tomorrow. Fear of being found out. Fear that one day everything you've built will crumble. And you'll be right back where you started with nothing to show for it. And that fear makes you hold on tighter. Makes you work harder. Makes you less willing to take risks. Less willing to ask for what you want. Less willing to admit that maybe what you want isn't more money. Maybe what you want is permission to want something else. Permission to want less. Permission to want a life that doesn't require you to be tired all the time. Permission to admit that you're tired. That you've been tired for years. That the exhaustion you feel isn't just physical. It's deeper than that. It's the exhaustion of trying to be someone you're not sure you want to be. You think about the people in your life, the ones who seem to have figured it out. Or maybe they just seem that way. Maybe they're doing the same thing you're doing. Chasing something that keeps moving. Pretending it's working. Telling themselves that this is what success looks like. You wonder what they talk about when they're alone. If they ask themselves the same questions. If they lie awake at night wondering if they made the wrong choices. If they feel the same loneliness. If they're also waiting for something to change without knowing what that something is. You want to ask someone. You want to say, do you feel it too? Do you feel like you're running in place? Do you feel like you're working so hard for something that doesn't even feel real? Do you feel like you're waiting for your life to start, even though you're living it right now? But you don't ask, because asking would mean admitting that you don't have it together. And you've spent so long pretending you do. You've built so much around that version of yourself, the one who is on track, who is doing the right things, who is going to make it. And you're not sure what's left if you let that version go. So you hold on. You keep showing up. You keep doing the work. You keep telling yourself that this is just a phase, that you're just tired, that once you get through this next thing, it will be better. And maybe it will. Maybe you just need a vacation, a new job, a new city, a new relationship. Maybe you just need to rearrange the pieces of your life until they fit better. Or maybe you've been rearranging pieces for years, and the problem isn't the arrangement. The problem is that you're playing a game you didn't choose. You think about the word security. What does it actually mean? Does it mean never worrying about money? Does it mean being able to handle whatever comes? Does it mean having enough to take care of yourself and the people you love? Or does it mean something else? Something deeper? Does it mean knowing that you'll be okay no matter what? Does it mean trusting yourself to handle uncertainty? Does it mean believing that you have value beyond what you earn? You don't know. You've never really thought about it that way. You've always thought of security as something you get when you have enough. Enough money. Enough savings. Enough stuff. But you've had more than you used to have. And you don't feel more secure. You just feel more afraid of losing it. And maybe that's the trap. Maybe the more you have, the more you have to lose. And the more you have to lose, the less secure you actually feel. You see it in the way you hold back, the way you don't take the risk, the way you stay in the job that's fine instead of leaving for the one that might be great, the way you don't say how you feel because it might mess up the stability you've worked for, the way you trade possibility for certainty over and over again, and then wonder why your life feels small. You traded the unknown for the known, and the known is safe. But safe doesn't always feel good. Sometimes safe feels like a cage you built yourself, a cage you're afraid to leave because at least you know the walls. You think about the money, the numbers, the way you check them like they're going to tell you something about yourself that you can't find anywhere else. And when they're up, you feel good for a minute. When they're down, you feel bad. But the feeling doesn't last either way. The numbers change. The market changes. The job changes. And you're left with the same question. Am I chasing money or security? And the answer keeps shifting. Maybe you're chasing both. Maybe you're chasing money because you think it will give you security. But security isn't a number. Security isn't a job title or a retirement account or a house in a good neighborhood. Security is a feeling you're not sure you know how to have, a feeling that might have nothing to do with how much you have, and everything to do with how you see yourself, what you believe you deserve, what you believe you can handle, what you believe will happen if you stop running. And you've been running for so long, running toward the next goal, running away from the fear that you're not enough, running from the silence, running from the part of yourself that wants to stop and ask what you actually want, the part that wants to sit still and feel the weight of your own life, without trying to make it heavier or lighter, the part that wants to be okay with where you are, even if it's not where you thought you'd be. That part is quiet. It's easy to ignore. It doesn't yell like the voice that tells you to work harder. It doesn't scream like the fear that keeps you up at night. It whispers, and it whispers things you don't want to hear. Things like, maybe this is enough. Maybe you are enough. Maybe you don't have to keep proving something to people who aren't even watching. Maybe the only person you're trying to impress is a version of yourself that doesn't exist. A version that was never going to be satisfied no matter how much you got. You think about what it would feel like to let go. Just a little. To stop checking the numbers so often. To stop comparing your life to the highlight reels. To stop measuring your worth in dollars and titles and milestones. To stop treating your life like a project you need to optimize and start treating it like something you're allowed to enjoy. Just a little. Just to see what it feels like. But letting go feels dangerous. It feels like giving up. It feels like admitting that you don't want it as much as you said you did. And you've built so much of your identity around wanting it. Around being the one who is driven. Who is focused. Who is going to make something of themselves. If you let go of that, who are you? What do you have left? What do you talk about when you talk about yourself? What do you wake up for? Those questions are hard. Harder than the work. Harder than the late nights. Harder than the constant hum of anxiety. Because those questions go to the center of who you think you are. And you're not sure you want to look there. You're not sure you're ready to see what's underneath all of the ambition and the striving and the proving. Underneath the version of you that was built to survive. Underneath the person you became because you had to. Because someone told you this was the way. Because you didn't know there were other ways. But there are other ways. You know that. You see people living them. People who make less money and seem happier. People who prioritize time over income. People who chose meaning over status. People who decided that security wasn't about the size of their bank account, but about the strength of their connections, the depth of their days, the freedom to be themselves without apologizing for it. And you envy them, but you also judge them. Part of you thinks they're naive. Part of you thinks they'll regret it. Part of you thinks that deep down they're just as scared as you are. And they're pretending better. And maybe that's true. Or maybe that's what you tell yourself to avoid asking the real question. The question that would change everything if you let yourself answer it honestly. What would you do if you weren't afraid? If you weren't afraid of not having enough? If you weren't afraid of what people would think? If you weren't afraid of failing? If you weren't afraid of being wrong? If you weren't afraid of finding out that the thing you've been chasing was never what you wanted in the first place? What would you do? You don't know. Or maybe you do know, and you're afraid to say it. Maybe you know exactly what you would do. You would take that risk. You would leave that job. You would start that thing. You would move to that place. You would say what you really feel. You would stop pretending. You would let yourself want something different. Something that doesn't fit on a spreadsheet. Something that doesn't come with a title. Something that no one can take away from you because it was never about the outside. It was always about the inside. The part of you that knows what you need even when you're too scared to ask for it. And maybe that's the real security. The kind that doesn't come from money or status or anything you can lose. The kind that comes from knowing yourself, from trusting yourself, from being able to lose everything and still know that you'll be okay because you're still you, because you have what you need inside, because you've built something that can't be taken, a sense of who you are that doesn't depend on what you have. That kind of security takes longer to build. It doesn't come from a promotion or a big check. It comes from years of paying attention, of making mistakes and surviving them, of learning what you actually value instead of what you were told to value, of letting go of the version of yourself that was built to impress, and finding the version that was built to live, the version that doesn't need to prove anything, the version that can sit in silence without reaching for a distraction, the version that can look at the numbers and see them for what they are, tools, not measures of worth, not proof of safety, just numbers. You're not there yet. You know that. You're still in the middle of it. Still waking up and checking your phone before you're fully awake. Still feeling the pull of the next thing. Still measuring yourself against people you don't even like. Still asking yourself if you're doing enough. Still wondering if you'll ever feel like you've made it. Still chasing something that keeps moving. Still telling yourself that tomorrow you'll figure it out. Tomorrow you'll be different. Tomorrow you'll stop running. But today is today. And today you're sitting here with this voice in your head. This voice that you're not sure is yours or mine or some combination of both. And you're asking yourself the question again, am I chasing money or security? And maybe the answer is neither. Maybe you're chasing a feeling that you've been told comes from having enough, but you're starting to suspect comes from somewhere else. Somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter, somewhere you've been avoiding because it's easier to chase than it is to sit still and feel what's already there. You take a breath, a real breath, the kind that fills your lungs all the way, and for a second, the noise quiets. For a second, there's just you and the room and the feeling of being alive. For a second, you're not chasing anything. You're just here, and it's not perfect. It's not solved. The questions are still there. The fears are still there. The numbers haven't changed. But for a second, you're not running. And in that second, you realize something you've been trying not to know. That the thing you're chasing isn't out there. It's in here. It's been in here all along, waiting for you to stop long enough to find it. You don't know what happens next. You don't know if tomorrow you'll wake up and go back to the same patterns, the same checking, the same measuring, the same running. You probably will. Change doesn't happen in one breath. It happens in 1,000 small moments. Moments like this one. Moments when you let yourself feel something real, and you don't look away. Moments when you sit with the question instead of trying to answer it. Moments when you let yourself not know, and you're okay with that. And maybe that's the work. The real work. Not the work you do for a paycheck. The work of being with yourself. Of learning to tolerate the uncertainty. Of letting the questions be questions without needing them to be answers. Of finding a kind of security that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. A security that's built from the inside out. Slow, quiet, tongue-tied, hard. But real. Not real. You're still here. Still reading. Still breathing. Still sitting with the weight of your own life. And maybe that's enough for tonight. Maybe that's more than enough. Maybe the fact that you're willing to sit here in the quiet and ask yourself these questions means something. Means you're not as lost as you think you are. Means there's a part of you that knows what matters even when you're too tired to feel it. Means that underneath all the noise and the chasing and the fear, there's a voice that's been waiting to be heard. A voice that knows what you need. A voice that's been there all along. You let the silence sit for a moment. You let yourself be in it. You let yourself be exactly where you are. Not behind. Not ahead. Just here. And in this moment, there's nothing to chase. Nothing to prove. Nothing to fix. There's just you. And for a moment that's enough. You let the silence sit for a moment, and then you do what you always do. You reach for something. Your phone. The remote. A thought about tomorrow. Anything to pull you out of the stillness, because the stillness is heavy. It's not bad heavy. It's just heavy. Like holding something you've been carrying for so long. You forgot you were holding it. And when you finally put it down, your arms don't know what to do with themselves. So you pick it back up. Not because you want to. Because it's familiar. Because the weight is part of you now. Because letting it go completely feels like disappearing. And you're not ready to disappear. You're not even sure what that would mean. To let go of the chase. To stop measuring. To stop asking yourself if you're doing enough. What would be left? What would fill the hours? What would you think about when you were alone? You think about the people who seem to have that peace. The ones who don't seem to need the next thing. Who can sit at a dinner and laugh without checking their phone. Who can take a day off without feeling guilty. Who can say I'm happy with what I have and mean it. You wonder if they were born that way, or if they learned it. If they had something you didn't. A different kind of upbringing. A different kind of security early on that made them able to trust that things would be okay. Or maybe they're just better at pretending. Maybe they're just as scared as you are, and they found better hiding places. You don't know. You can't know. All you know is the inside of your own head. The constant loop. The shoulds and the coulds and the if. If only. The voice that tells you you're not there yet. That you're close, but not close enough. That if you just push a little harder, you'll finally feel like you made it. And you push. And you get closer. And the feeling doesn't come. And then you push again. And again. And you start to wonder if maybe the feeling isn't at the finish line. Maybe the feeling is in the running itself. Maybe that's why you keep running. Because if you stop, you have to feel everything you've been running from. And what are you running from? That's the question you don't want to answer. What is it that you're so afraid of? Failure. Of course, being seen as a failure. Being poor. And being unable to take care of yourself. Being a disappointment to the people who believed in you. Being alone. Being forgotten. Being average. Being ordinary. Being just like everyone else when you were told you were meant for something more. You were told that. Maybe not in so many words, but you felt it. In the way people talked about you. In the way they expected things from you. In the way they praised you for being smart or capable or driven. You learned early that being those things got you attention, got you approval, got you love. And you learned to perform those things even when you didn't feel them, even when you were tired, even when you wanted to be anything but smart or capable or driven. You learned that your value was tied to your output, your achievement, your potential. And potential is a dangerous thing. It's never enough. You can never live up to it because it's always pointing toward the future, toward what you could be, toward what you should be, toward what you're not yet. And you spend your whole life trying to become that future version of yourself, the one who has arrived, the one who is done, the one who can finally rest. But that version never shows up. Because as soon as you get close, the bar moves. The potential expands. There's always more to do, more to prove, more to become. You see it in the way you talk about yourself. I'm not where I want to be yet. I'm still working on it. I'm getting there. Getting where? Where is there? Can you describe it? Can you draw a map to it? Or is it just a feeling of lightness, of ease, of being able to exhale without the tightness in your chest, of waking up without the first thought being, what do I need to do today? Of looking at your life and feeling something other than the quiet hum of not enough. You try to describe it sometimes to yourself. In the journal you started 3 times and never kept up with. You write things like, I just want to feel okay. I just want to stop worrying. I just want to feel like I can breathe. And then you read it back, and it sounds simple. Too simple. Yep. Like you're asking for something that should be easy. But it's not easy. It's the hardest thing. To stop worrying when worry has been your operating system for as long as you can remember. To stop chasing when chasing is how you know who you are. You think about the first time you remember feeling this way. Maybe it was when you were young and you heard your parents talk about money in hushed voices. When you learned that things could be taken away, that nothing was guaranteed, that you had to earn your place. Maybe it was when you got your first job and realized that your time was worth a specific number, and that number determined what kind of life you could have, what kind of apartment, what kind of food, what kind of freedom. And you started doing the math, and you've never stopped. Or maybe it was earlier. Maybe it was when you learned that being good wasn't enough, that you had to be the best. That good got you a nod, but great got you a reward, and you wanted the reward, not just for what it was, for what it meant. It meant you were seen. It meant you mattered. It meant you were safe. And you started reaching for that feeling, and you've been reaching ever since. And now you're here, in a life that looks fine from the outside, a life that you worked hard for, a life that has moments of real beauty, real connection, real joy. But underneath it there's a current that pulls at you when you're not paying attention, a current that says this isn't enough. You aren't enough. You need more. You need to do more. Be more. Have more. And you follow it because you don't know how to swim against it. Because you're not even sure it's a current. It feels like the truth. The truth you've been carrying since before you had words for it. But what if it's not the truth? What if it's just a story? A story you were told so many times you started believing it. A story that served a purpose once. It kept you safe. It kept you striving. It kept you from falling through the cracks. But now it's too small for you. Now it's a cage, and you're the one holding the key. But you don't know how to use it, because you've been inside so long you forgot there was an outside. You think about what it would feel like to let go of the story, to say I'm not chasing anything right now. I'm just here. To stop checking the numbers, to stop comparing, to stop asking yourself if you're behind, to let yourself want what you want without filtering it through what it means about your worth, to do something because you want to do it, not because it's a step toward something else, to rest without guilt, to enjoy without wondering when it will end, to be present, really present, not the present you fake when someone is talking to you while your mind is somewhere else. The present that feels like sinking into warm water. The present where nothing is missing. You don't know how to get there. You've tried. You've downloaded the meditation apps. You've gone on the vacations. You've taken the weekends off. You've done the things that are supposed to help you slow down. And for a moment, they do. For a moment, you feel lighter. And then you come back to the emails, back to the to-do list, back to the numbers, and the lightness disappears. And you're left wondering if you're doing it wrong, if you're broken, if everyone else can figure out how to be present, and you're the one who can't. But maybe it's not about being present. Maybe it's about what you're present to. If you're present to the fear of not having enough, then being present doesn't help. It just makes you more aware of the fear. The problem isn't that you're distracted. The problem is that when you stop distracting yourself, you feel something you don't want to feel. Something that's been there a long time. Something that money can't fix. Something that security can't protect you from. You feel it now, as you sit here. A kind of emptiness. Not the kind that comes from lack. The kind that comes from having done everything you were supposed to do and still feeling like something is missing. Like you're waiting for something to arrive. Like the real life hasn't started yet. Like you're in a waiting room. And you've been in the waiting room so long, you've started to decorate it. You've put up pictures. You've made it comfortable. But it's still a waiting room. And you're still waiting. Waiting for what? For permission. For the right moment. For enough money. For the fear to go away. For someone to tell you it's okay to want what you want. For the version of yourself that feels whole to finally show up. And you wait. And you wait. And the waiting becomes your life. And you don't even notice because you're so busy doing the things you think you need to do before you can stop waiting. You think about the people who aren't waiting, who are living their lives now. Not perfectly, not without fear, but fully. The ones who take the trip even though they could save more. Who start the thing even though it might fail. Who leave the job even though it's secure. Who choose the relationship even though it's uncertain. Who spend the money on the experience instead of the thing. Who seem to understand something you don't. That the point isn't to get to a place where you're safe from life. The point is to live it, with all the risk and uncertainty and mess. That safety is an illusion. That the only real safety is knowing you can handle what comes. That you can lose everything and still be okay because you've built something inside that can't be taken. You want that. You want to be that person. The person who isn't afraid to live. Who doesn't need to have everything figured out before they let themselves be happy. Who can look at their life and say this is good, even if it's not perfect. Who can trust that whatever happens they'll figure it out. Because they always have. Because they're stronger than they think. Because they've survived everything that's come before. You have survived everything. You think about that sometimes. All the things you were afraid of that didn't happen. All the things that did happen that you got through. The job you thought you'd never get. The one you thought you'd never leave. The money you thought you'd never have. The loss you thought would break you. And you're still here, still standing, still breathing, still asking the questions, still trying to figure it out. That has to count for something. That has to mean something about what you're capable of. But it's hard to feel capable when you're afraid. Hard to feel strong when the fear is loud. And the fear is loud. It's loud in the morning when you check your email before you've even had coffee. It's loud at night when you replay the day and find all the ways you could have done better. It's loud when you see someone younger achieving something you wanted. When you see someone older with more. When you look at your bank account and do the math that never ends. The fear tells you that you're one step away from losing everything. That you have to keep running. That you can't stop. That stopping is the same as failing. And you listen. You've always listened. Because the fear is smart. It knows where you're weak. It knows the stories you believed before you could question them. It knows that deep down there's a part of you that still believes you're not enough. That you have to earn your place. That love and safety and belonging are things you have to work for. That you can't just rest in them. That you have to deserve them. You think about where that came from. Maybe from parents who meant well. but who taught you that love was conditional, that you were good when you achieved, that you were valuable when you performed. Maybe from a culture that measures worth in dollars and titles and square footage, that tells you that if you're not climbing, you're falling, that there's no neutral, no resting, no being, only doing, only getting, only having. And you bought it. You bought it because you wanted to be safe, because you wanted to be loved, because you wanted to matter. And you've been paying for it ever since, with your time, with your energy, with your peace, with your presence, with the moments you'll never get back, because you were too busy chasing something that was never going to fill the hole, because the hole wasn't made by a lack of money or security. The hole was made by a lack of something else, something you're only now starting to name. Maybe it's belonging, not the kind that comes from fitting in, the kind that comes from being known, from being seen, from being allowed to be exactly who you are without having to earn it. Maybe it's worth, not the kind that comes from what you produce, the kind that's just there, inherent, dorks, unconditional, the kind you don't have to prove because it was there before you did anything. Maybe it's safety, not the safety of a big bank account, the safety of knowing that you're okay, that you'll be okay, that whatever happens, you have yourself, that you're not alone. You feel the loneliness again, the loneliness that comes from carrying all of this by yourself, from not being able to say to anyone how scared you are, from pretending that you have it together when you don't, from performing the version of yourself that everyone expects, while the real you sits in the corner of the room, watching and wondering when it gets to come out. You want to come out. You want to stop performing. You want to let someone see the real you, the one who is tired, the one who is afraid, the one who doesn't have the answers, the one who isn't sure about anything. But you don't know how. You don't know who that person would be without the performance. You don't know if there's anything left underneath all the layers you've built. You've been performing for so long, you're not sure where the performance ends and you begin. And maybe that's the deepest fear, that without the chasing, without the striving, without the money and the titles and the things you're supposed to want, there's nothing, that you're empty, that the real you is just a void, that the only thing holding you together is the pursuit. And if you stop pursuing, you'll fall apart. You'll disappear. You'll become nothing. But what if that's not true? What if underneath all of that there's something real? Something that was there before you learned to chase. Something that's been waiting for you to stop long enough to feel it. Something that doesn't need money or security or validation to exist. Something that is enough, not because it's achieved anything, just because it's there, just because it's you. You think about moments when you felt that, moments when you weren't trying to be anything, when you were just being, sitting with someone you loved, walking outside, laughing at something stupid, cooking a meal, listening to music. The moments when the noise stopped and you felt something else, something quiet, something steady, something that felt like home, not a home you had to build or protect, a home that was just there, waiting for you to come inside, and you came inside for a moment, and then you left. Peace. The noise called you back, because there was something you had to do, somewhere you had to be, some version of yourself you had to become, and you went. You always go, but now you're starting to wonder if you can stay a little longer next time. If you can let yourself be in that feeling without running away, if you can trust that the world won't fall apart if you stop holding it up for a minute, the world won't fall apart. You know that. Intellectually, you know that your worth isn't in your productivity, that your value isn't in your bank account, that you are more than the sum of what you achieve. You know all of that, but knowing it and feeling it are different. And you don't feel it. You feel the opposite. You feel like you are what you do, like you are what you have, like you are what people see when they look at you, like without the performance there's nothing. But maybe that's the thing you have to sit with, the nothing, the fear that there's nothing underneath. Maybe you have to let yourself feel that emptiness without trying to fill it with more chasing, more achievement, more proof that you exist. Maybe you have to sit in the emptiness long enough to see what's actually there. Maybe what's there isn't nothing. Maybe it's something that was buried so long ago you forgot it existed. Something that was covered over by all the shoulds and the have-tos and the things you thought you needed to be. Something that is still there, waiting. Bunde, patient, tuttoundertaliens. Tira gevoel. Gotcha. Quiet toint. You take another breath, a deeper one this time. You let your shoulders drop. You didn't realize how high they were, how tight. You let your jaw relax. You didn't realize you were clenching it. You sit in the quiet and you let your body soften just a little, just enough to feel something shift. Not a big shift, not a resolution, just a small opening, a crack in the armor, a place where air can get in. And in that small opening you feel something. Not happiness, not peace, not security. Something simpler, something like permission. Permission to not have it figured out. Permission to not be there yet. Permission to be exactly where you are. Permission to want what you want without knowing what that is. Permission to stop running for a minute and just be here. Now, with the questions, with the fear, with the loneliness, with the small voice that's been waiting to speak. The small voice says, I'm scared. And you don't push it away. You let it be there. You let yourself be scared without trying to fix it, without trying to outrun it, without trying to make it go away. You just sit with it, and it doesn't kill you. It doesn't get smaller either. But you notice that you can hold it, that you're still here, that you're still breathing, that the fear is a feeling, and feelings pass, even the ones that feel permanent, even the ones that feel like they've always been there. The small voice says, I don't know what I'm doing. And you let that be true. You let yourself not know. You let yourself be in the uncertainty without needing to resolve it, without needing to have a plan, without needing to be the person who always knows what to do. You let yourself be someone who is lost. And being lost feels less scary when you stop pretending you're not. When you stop trying to act like you have the map when you don't. When you admit that you're in the woods and you don't know which way to go. The small voice says, I'm tired. And you let yourself be tired. Not the kind of tired that you push through. The kind that you rest in. The kind that says it's okay to stop. It's okay to not be productive. It's okay to let yourself be still. It's okay to not have to earn your right to exist. You let yourself be tired, and you let yourself be still, and you let yourself feel what it's like to not be doing anything, to not be chasing, to not be running, to just be. And in that stillness you feel something else, a kind of sadness, a sadness that's been there for a long time, A sadness about all the moments you missed because you were looking somewhere else. About the person you could have been if you hadn't been so busy trying to be the person you thought you needed to be. About the life you could have lived if you hadn't been so afraid of losing the life you were supposed to want. About the time that passed while you were waiting for something to happen. For permission. For enough. For the right moment. The sadness sits with you. It doesn't feel bad. It feels real. It feels like something you've been avoiding for years. Something that needed to be felt. Something that needed to be acknowledged. You let yourself feel it. You let yourself grieve. Not for something specific. For something general. For the weight of all the years you spent chasing something that was never going to catch. For the exhaustion of trying to be someone you weren't sure you wanted to be. For the loneliness of carrying it all by yourself. And then the sadness starts to shift. It doesn't go away, but it changes. It becomes something softer. Something like tenderness. Something like compassion. For yourself. For the version of you that was just trying to survive. That was doing what it thought it had to do to be safe. That didn't know there was another way. That was working so hard to be enough. You feel something for that version of you. Not pity. Something closer to kindness. Something that says you were doing your best. You were doing what you were taught. You were trying to keep yourself safe in a world that didn't always feel safe. And that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to understand. You let the kindness sit with you. You let it soften the edges. You let it be there without rushing it. You let it remind you that you are not a machine. You are not a project. You are not a set of numbers. You are a person. A person who is trying. A person who is tired. A person who wants to feel safe and loved and okay. A person who is more than what they achieve or what they have. A person who has value just because they exist. You don't fully believe it yet, but you feel it for a moment. A small moment. A crack of light. Enough to see that there's something there. Something worth protecting. Something worth coming home to. Something that has been waiting for you to stop running long enough to find it. You sit in the quiet a little longer. You let the moment be what it is. You don't try to hold on to it. You don't try to make it last. You just let it be there. And you let yourself be there with it. And for now, that's enough. For now, that's everything. You let the quiet sit for a moment longer, and then you do something you haven't done in a while. You don't reach for your phone. You don't check your email. You don't make a list for tomorrow. You just stay. You stay with the feeling of having put something down. You're not even sure what you put down. The chase, maybe. The need to have an answer. The need to be somewhere else. You put it down for a minute, and your arms feel lighter. Your chest feels a little less tight. It's not gone. The tightness is still there, but it's softer, like you've been holding a fist so long your fingers are finally starting to uncurl. You think about what it would mean to let them uncurl all the way, to open your hands, to stop gripping so hard, to let go of the idea that you have to control everything, that you have to know where you're going, that you have to have it all figured out before you can let yourself breathe. You imagine what it would feel like to just be, not to be the person who is getting there, not to be the person who is almost there, just to be the person who is here, right now, with nothing to prove, nothing to fix, but nothing to become. It feels impossible, and it feels possible, both at the same time, like something you could touch if you reached for it, like something that's been there all along but you've been too busy to see it. You think about the life you live day to day, the morning routine, the coffee, the commute, The emails that start before you're ready. The meetings that could have been emails. The hours that disappear into tasks that don't mean anything to you. The way you look at the clock at 2 p.m. and wonder where the morning went. The way you get to the end of the week and can't remember what you did. The way you live for the weekend, and then the weekend comes, and you spend it recovering from the week, and then it's Monday again. And somewhere in that cycle you lost something. You lost the sense that your time is yours, that your life is happening now, that the hours you spend at work are hours of your life, not just hours you're trading for money. They're your hours, the only hours you get. And when they're gone, they're gone. And you've been trading them for something you're not even sure you want anymore. Or maybe you want it, but you're not sure it's worth what it's costing you. The cost is you, your energy, your presence, your ability to feel anything other than the hum of getting through it. You think about the times you've been with people you love, and you've been somewhere else, thinking about work, thinking about money, thinking about what you have to do next, and they could feel it. They could feel you slipping away even when you were sitting right there. And you felt it too. You felt the distance between you and the moment. The distance you created because you couldn't let yourself be fully there. Because some part of you was still running. Still chasing. Still afraid that if you let go for even a second, you'd lose something. And you did lose something. You lost the moment. You lost the connection. You lost the chance to be present in a life that was happening right in front of you. You don't want to keep losing that. You know you don't. But you don't know how to stop. Because the thing that pulls you away feels like survival. It feels like the most important thing. It feels like if you don't keep pushing, you'll fall behind. And once you fall behind, you'll never catch up. And you've worked too hard to fall behind. You've sacrificed too much to let it slip away now. So you keep pushing, even when you're tired, even when you don't want to, even when you feel the cost in your body and your relationships and the quiet spaces of your mind. You think about the idea of enough. What if you already have enough? What if the money you make is enough? What if the security you have is enough? What if the life you're living right now is enough? Not the life you're chasing, the life you have. The one with the job that pays the bills. The one with the apartment that's fine. The one with the people who love you even when you're distracted. What if that is enough? What if the only thing missing is your permission to see it that way? You try to imagine what it would feel like to wake up and believe that. To not need more. To not need the next thing. To look at your bank account and feel okay. To look at your career and feel okay. To look at your life and feel okay. Not ecstatic. Not like everything is perfect. Just okay. Just enough. Just something you can rest in without feeling like you should be somewhere else. Doing something else. Being someone else. It feels foreign. Like a language you don't speak. You've spent so long speaking the language of not enough. Of more. And to be. Of if only. You don't know how to switch. You don't know if you can. But you're starting to wonder if you want to. If you're tired enough of the old language to try learning a new one. One where enough is a word you use without flinching. One where security means knowing you'll figure it out rather than having it all locked down. One where you measure your life, not by what you have, but by how you feel when you wake up in the morning. By whether you want to get out of bed or you're just going through the motions. You think about the mornings. The way you wake up before the alarm. The way your mind starts running before you're fully awake. The way you feel the weight of the day before it's even started. The way you lie there for a minute, trying to gather the energy to face it. And then you do. You get up. You start the machine. You become the person you need to be for the day. And by the time you get home, you're too tired to be anyone else. So you fall into bed and do it again, and again, and again. And you tell yourself it's temporary, that you're building something, that it will pay off, that one day you'll have enough, and you can slow down. But you've been telling yourself that for years, and the years are passing. And you're not sure when temporary became permanent, when the grind became your identity, when the thing you were doing to get to the life you wanted became the life you have. You wonder what you would do if you knew you had enough. If you woke up tomorrow and you had the number, whatever number you thought would make you feel secure. What would you do then? Would you keep working the same hours? Would you stay in the same job? Would you keep chasing more? Or would you finally let yourself want something else? Something that doesn't come with a price tag. Something that can't be measured in dollars. Something like time, like presence, like the freedom to be bored, to be still, to do nothing without feeling guilty. You don't know. You're not sure you've ever let yourself want that. Wanting that feels like giving up, like admitting that the chase was wrong, that you wasted years on something that wasn't going to make you happy. And that's a hard thing to admit, because if you admit that, then you have to grieve those years. You have to sit with the fact that you traded something precious for something that didn't give you what you were promised. And that grief is heavy. It's easier to keep chasing, to keep believing that it's just around the corner, that you're almost there, that the next thing will be the thing that finally makes it all worth it. But you're starting to see that the corner keeps turning. The next thing keeps moving. And you're starting to wonder if you want to keep following it. If you want to keep spending your life chasing something that never lets you catch it. If you want to keep being the person who is almost there but never arrives. Or if you want to stop. Just stop. And let yourself be here. With what you have. With who you are. With the life that is actually yours. Not the one you're waiting for. The one you're living. It's scary to think about stopping. Because stopping means facing what you've been running from. The fear that you're not enough. The fear that you'll be left behind. The fear that without the chase there's nothing. And you don't know if you're ready to face those fears. You don't know if you're strong enough. You don't know what's on the other side. But you're also starting to see that the chase isn't making you strong. It's making you tired. It's making you hollow. It's taking the parts of you that are soft and alive and replacing them with the hard edges of someone who is always trying to prove something. You think about the people you admire, not the ones with the most money or the biggest titles, the ones who seem to have a kind of peace, the ones who can sit in a room without filling it with their own agenda, but the ones who listen when you talk, the ones who laugh easily, the ones who don't seem to be running anywhere. They have something you want, something you can't buy, something that comes from somewhere else, from having done the work, from having faced themselves, from having made peace with who they are and what they have and where they are. You wonder if you can get there, if you can find that peace, if you can let go of the chase long enough to feel what it's like to be still, to be okay with where you are, to trust that you'll figure it out, to trust that you're enough even when you're not doing anything, even when you're just sitting, even when you're not climbing or building or proving, even when you're just being. You want to say yes. You want to believe that you can, but you're not there yet. You're still in the middle, still waking up and checking your phone. Still doing the math, still measuring yourself against people you don't even like, still still asking yourself if you're doing enough, still feeling the pull of the next thing, still telling yourself that one day you'll be different. One day you'll be the person who has enough and knows it. One day you'll be the person who can rest. But maybe one day is today. Not in the sense that everything changes, but in the sense that you're here. You're sitting with the question. You're not running from it. You're letting yourself feel the fear and the sadness and the exhaustion. And that's something. That's not nothing. That's the beginning of something. A small beginning. A small opening. A small crack in the armor that's been keeping you safe and keeping you trapped. You think about tomorrow. You know you'll wake up and the patterns will be there. The emails, the tasks, the numbers, the voice that tells you you're not doing enough. But maybe you'll notice it differently. Maybe you'll see it for what it is. A voice, a habit, a story you've been telling yourself. And maybe you won't believe it as much. Maybe you'll let it talk, but you won't let it drive. Maybe you'll take a moment before you check your phone. Maybe you'll take a breath before you start running. Maybe you'll remind yourself that you are more than what you do, that you have value that has nothing to do with your productivity, that you are enough even when you're not doing anything. It sounds simple, and maybe it is simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. Simple means there's no trick, no secret, no thing you need to buy or achieve. Simple means the answer is inside you. It's been there all along, waiting for you to stop looking outside, waiting for you to stop chasing, waiting for you to sit still long enough to hear it. You're not there yet, but you're closer than you were. You sat still tonight. You let yourself feel something real. You let yourself be with the questions without needing to answer them. You let yourself be scared and tired and sad, and you didn't run. You stayed. And staying is the hardest thing. Harder than chasing. Harder than working. Harder than pretending. Because staying means facing what's real. And what's real is that you don't have it all figured out. That you're not where you thought you'd be. That you're tired. That you're scared. That you want things you don't know how to ask for. And you're still here. Still breathing. Still you. And that's something. That's more than something. That's everything. Because in the staying you start to see that you're not broken. That you're not failing. That you're just a person trying to find their way in a world that told them the wrong things. That you're a person who learned to chase because you thought it was the only way to be safe. And now you're learning that there might be another way. A quieter way. A slower way. A way that doesn't require you to leave yourself behind. You don't know what that way looks like yet. You don't know how to walk it. But you know it starts with moments like this. Moments where you stop and let yourself be. Moments where you put down the chase and just sit with yourself. Moments where you let the questions be questions and the feelings be feelings. Moments where you let yourself be exactly who you are without trying to be anything else. You let the quiet settle around you. You let your breath slow. You let your eyes rest on something in the room. A lamp, a window, a corner of the ceiling. Something you've seen 1,000 times, but you're seeing it now. Really seeing it. The way the light falls. The way the shadows sit. The way it's just there. Not asking anything of you. Not needing anything from you. Just being. And for a moment you're like that too. Just being. Not chasing. Not running. Not measuring. Just here. Just alive. Just you. And in that moment, you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Not happiness, not peace. Something simpler, something like rest. A rest that isn't just sleep. A rest that is deeper. A rest that comes from letting go of the need to be somewhere else. A rest that comes from being exactly where you are. You don't know how long it lasts. A minute. Maybe less. And then the thoughts come back. The to-do list. The numbers. The voice. But they're softer now. They don't grab you the same way. You notice them, but you don't have to follow them. You let them pass. You let them be. And you stay here. Just a little longer. Just until you're ready to move. And when you move, you know you'll take something with you. Something small. Something quiet. Something that was there before you started chasing. Something that will be there when you stop. Oh, you carry that small quiet thing with you when you finally move. You don't know what to call it. A feeling. A memory. A crack of light that got in and didn't leave. You carry it to the kitchen. To the bathroom. To the moment when you brush your teeth and look at yourself in the mirror. And for once, you don't look away. You look at your face, and you see something you don't usually see. Not the tiredness, not the worry. Something underneath. Something that looks like it's been waiting for you to come home. You go to bed and you lie there, and the thoughts come back. Of course, they come back. The voice that tells you about tomorrow. The list you didn't write down. The email you forgot to send. The number you need to check. They come back like they always do. But you notice something different. You don't grab onto them. You let them float. You let them be there without letting them take over. And you remember that you did something tonight. Something small but real. You sat with yourself. You didn't run. And that matters. You fall asleep without knowing when it happened. And for once, you don't wake up in the middle of the night with your mind already running. Morning comes, and you feel it before you open your eyes. The old pull, the sense that you're already behind, the need to check, to know, to start. You feel it, and you take a breath, just one, before you reach for anything. You let your eyes stay closed for a moment longer. You let the morning be quiet, just for a moment, and then you reach for your phone. Because you always reach for your phone. But the moment was there. The breath was there. And that's something you didn't have yesterday. You go through the morning the way you always do. Coffee, email, thoughts, fairy tale, cha, the rhythm of getting ready, the thoughts about what you need to accomplish, the feeling of time moving too fast. But underneath it, there's something else, a small awareness, a small voice that says you don't have to run. You can move at your own pace. You can take a moment. You can breathe. You don't have to be the person who is always on. You can just be the person who is here. You don't listen to that voice most of the morning. You're too deep in the rhythm, too deep in the shoulds. But it's there, and at some point, you notice it again. Maybe when you're standing in line somewhere. Maybe when you're waiting for something to load on your computer. Maybe when you're in the bathroom with the door closed and the noise of the day's on the other side. You notice the voice, and you notice that you've been holding your shoulders up again, that your jaw is tight again, that you've been gripping the day like it's something you have to wrestle into submission. You let your shoulders drop. You let your jaw soften. You take a breath that doesn't have to be deep. Just a breath. Just a reminder that you're a person, not a machine. not a to-do list. A person who gets tired. A person who needs to rest. A person who is allowed to take a moment, even when the world says keep going. The world does say keep going. It says it in the emails that pile up, in the expectations that hang in the air, in the way people talk about being busy like it's a badge of honor, in the way you measure your worth by how much you got done. The world says keep going, and you've been saying yes for so long you forgot you could say no. You forgot that saying no doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're choosing. It means you're deciding what matters and what doesn't. It means you're taking back something that was never meant to be given away. You think about what you would say no to if you let yourself. The meetings that don't need you. The tasks that someone else could do. The expectations that aren't yours to carry. The way you say yes to things you don't want to do because you're afraid of what happens if you say no. Afraid of being seen as difficult. Afraid of being passed over. Afraid of losing the security you've been chasing. And you realize that saying yes to everything is its own kind of running. A way to keep moving so you don't have to feel the fear. A way to stay busy so you don't have to sit with the question of what you actually want. You don't know what you actually want. That's the hard part. You know what you're supposed to want. More money, more security, more status, more things that tell the world you made it. But what you actually want. What you want when you're alone and honest and not performing for anyone. You're not sure. You haven't let yourself ask that question in a long time. Or maybe you've asked it, and you pushed the answer away because it didn't fit with the life you were building. What if what you want is simpler? More time, more space, more quiet, more moments where you're not thinking about the next thing, more connection with people who see you, and not just the version of you that has it together. More permission to be exactly who you are without having to earn it. More of the feeling you had last night when you sat in the quiet and let yourself be. That feeling of rest, of being enough even when you weren't doing anything. You want that. You know you want that. But wanting it feels dangerous. Because wanting it means you have to stop doing some of the things you're doing. You have to let go of some of the chasing. You have to trust that you'll be okay, even if you don't have more. Even if you're not climbing. Even if you're not the person who is always getting somewhere. And you're not sure you trust that. You're not sure you trust yourself to be okay without the chase. You're not sure you trust that the world will still want you if you stop performing. But the world doesn't want you. Not really. The world doesn't know you. The world sees the performance. The world sees the title and the salary and the things you own. The world doesn't see the part of you that sat in the dark last night and felt something real. The world doesn't see the part of you that is tired and scared and longing for something you can't name. That part is yours. That part belongs to you. And maybe that part is the only part that matters. The part that is real. The part that doesn't need to chase because it already has what it needs. It has you. It has the capacity to feel, to be present, to sit with the questions even when there are no answers. You think about the afternoon, the way it unfolds, the meetings, the tasks, the feeling of moving through the hours without really being there. But there are moments when you catch yourself, when you notice that you're thinking about something that doesn't matter, when you notice that you're worrying about something that hasn't happened, when you notice that you're measuring yourself against someone else's highlight reel. And in those moments you have a choice. You can follow the thought, or you can let it go. You can keep running, or you can stop, just for a second, just to breathe. Just to remind yourself that you are here, that this is your life, that the only moment that matters is this one. You don't always make the choice to stop. Most of the time you keep running. But sometimes you do. Sometimes you take the breath. Sometimes you let the thought pass. Sometimes you look out the window and see the light on the building across the street, and you let yourself be there for a second. Just a second. But that second is yours. No one can take it. No one can measure it. It doesn't go on your resume. It doesn't add to your bank account. But it's real. And it's yours. You start to notice that the seconds add up. The moments you stop. The breaths you take. The times you let yourself be present instead of somewhere else. They start to form a kind of thread. A thread that runs through the day. A thread that connects you to yourself. A thread that reminds you that there is something underneath the chase. Something that was there before. Something that will be there after. You think about the evening. The way you come home. The way you take off the clothes you wore to be the person you needed to be. The way you sit down and feel the weight of the day. The way you reach for your phone, or the remote, or anything that will fill the space. And tonight you notice that you don't have to fill it. You can let it be empty. You can let yourself be empty. You can let yourself sit in the quiet without needing to be entertained or distracted or productive. You can let yourself be. You sit, and the quiet comes, and the thoughts come, and the feelings come, and you let them. You don't chase them away. You don't grab onto them. You just let them be there, and you are there with them. And it's uncomfortable, but it's also something else. Something like being home. Something like being with someone you've been avoiding for a long time. And you realize that someone is you. The you that you've been running from. The you that doesn't have it all figured out. The you that is scared and tired and longing. The you that you've been trying to outrun with work and money and the next thing. That you is still there. Has always been there. Waiting for you to stop long enough to say hello. Waiting for you to sit down and listen. Waiting for you to say, I see you. I hear you. I'm here. And you say it. Not with words. With your presence. With your willingness to sit. With your willingness to feel. You say it by not running. And for a moment, the you that has been waiting feels seen, feels held, feels like maybe it's okay to be exactly who it is, to not be more, to not be different, to just be. You don't know what happens after this moment. You don't know if tomorrow you'll remember. You don't know if you'll be able to keep sitting in the quiet, or if you'll go back to the chase. You don't know if the thread you're weaving will hold or if it will fray. But you know that tonight you did something. You stopped. You sat. You let yourself be with yourself. And that is not nothing. That is not small. That is the beginning of something you've been waiting for. Something you didn't even know you were waiting for. You let the quiet sit with you a little longer. You let the room get darker. You let the day fall away. And in the quiet you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Not peace. Not resolution. Something like permission. Permission to not have it figured out. Permission to be where you are. Permission to want what you want, even if you don't know what it is. Permission to stop chasing and just be. You don't know if you'll chase tomorrow. You probably will. The patterns are deep. The voice is loud. The world will ask you to run. But tonight you stopped. And stopping is practice. Every time you stop, you get a little better at it. Every time you sit with yourself, you get a little closer to the thing you've been chasing. The thing that was never out there. The thing that was always in here, waiting for you to come home. The days after that night are not different. That is the first thing you notice. You wake up, and the same thoughts are there. The same pull toward your phone. The same sense that you are already behind. The same voice that tells you to check the numbers to make sure everything is still okay. You go through the motions the way you always have. You answer the emails. You sit in the meetings. You do the work. You come home tired. You fall into bed. The days look the same. They feel the same. And part of you wonders if that night meant anything at all. If the moment of sitting in the quiet was just a moment. A pause that got swallowed up by the rest of your life. But then there are the other moments. The moments when something is different, even though everything is the same. The moment when you are in the middle of something and you remember. You remember that you can breathe. You remember that you don't have to grip so tight. You remember that there is a version of you that exists outside of the chase. And you take a breath. Not a big one, just a small one. Just enough to remind yourself that you are here, that this moment is yours, that you have a choice even when it doesn't feel like you do. You start to notice things you didn't notice before. The way your shoulders feel when you are sitting at your desk. The way your jaw feels when you are reading an email that makes you anxious. The way your stomach feels when you check your bank account. You notice these things and you realize that your body has been talking to you for a long time, telling you that you are carrying something heavy, telling you that you are holding on too tight, telling you that you are tired. You have been ignoring it for so long. You forgot it was there. But now you are starting to listen. You listen when you are walking to the train and you feel the tightness in your chest. You listen when you are lying in bed and you feel the knot in your stomach. You listen when you are in a conversation and you feel the urge to check your phone. You listen and you don't judge what you hear. You just let it be there. You let your body tell you what it has been trying to tell you for years. That you are not okay. That you have not been okay for a long time. That the way you are living is not sustainable. That something has to change. But change is hard. You have built a life around the way things are. You have built routines and habits and patterns that keep you moving. You have built a version of yourself that is good at the chase, good at the work, good at appearing like you have it together. And that version of you doesn't want to change. That version of you is afraid of what happens if you stop, if you let go, if you admit that the life you have been building is not the life you want. You feel that fear when you think about making a change, when you think about saying no to something, when you think about asking for what you need, when you think about stepping back from the thing that has been taking all your energy. The fear is loud. It tells you that you will lose everything, that you will be seen as lazy, or weak, or ungrateful, that you will fall behind and never catch up, that the security you have been chasing will slip away, and you will be left with nothing. You know the fear. You have known it for a long time. It has been your companion on this chase. It has driven you, pushed you, kept you going when you wanted to stop, and you are grateful to it in some way. It kept you safe. It kept you from falling through the cracks. It made you work hard and save money and build a life that looks stable from the outside. But now you are starting to see that the fear is not just protecting you. It is also keeping you small, keeping you in a cage you built yourself, keeping you from the thing you actually need. You think about what you actually need, not what the fear tells you you need, not what the world tells you you need. What you need. The you that sat in the quiet that night. The you that is tired of running. The you that wants to rest. What does that you need? You need to feel safe. Not the safety of a big bank account. The safety of knowing that you can handle what comes. The safety of trusting yourself. The safety of being enough even when you are not doing anything. You need to feel seen. Not the being seen that comes from achievement. The being seen that comes from being known. From being allowed to be exactly who you are without having to earn it. From having people who love you not because of what you do, but because of who you are. You need to feel connected to yourself, to the people who matter, to the life you are actually living, not the life you are chasing, the life that is happening right now, the one with the quiet moments and the small joys and the things you have been too busy to notice. You need to feel like you matter, not because of what you have, because of who you are, because you exist, because you are here, because you are trying, because you are doing the best you can with what you have. You don't know how to give yourself those things. You don't know how to feel safe when the fear is so loud. You don't know how to feel seen when you have been performing for so long. You don't know how to feel connected when you have been running from yourself for years. But you know that it starts with stopping, with being still, with letting yourself feel what you have been avoiding. So you try. You try to stop more often, in the small moments, in the cracks between the things you have to do, in the morning before you reach for your phone, in the afternoon when you feel the tension in your shoulders, in the evening when you come home and the quiet is waiting. You try to be still, to breathe, to let yourself be where you are, to let yourself feel what you feel. It is not easy. Most of the time you fail. You reach for your phone. You check your email. You make a list. You find something to do, something to fill the space, something to keep you from the quiet. But sometimes you don't. Sometimes you let the quiet be there. Sometimes you let yourself be there with it. And in those moments you feel something shift, something small, something subtle, something that tells you that you are still here, that you are still trying, that you are still capable of something other than running. You think about the week that passes. The days blur together, the way they always do. But there are moments that stand out. The moment when you were walking and you noticed the way the light was hitting the leaves. The moment when you were talking to someone and you realized you were actually listening. The moment when you finished something and you let yourself feel the satisfaction instead of immediately moving on to the next thing. The moment when you looked at your bank account and you didn't feel the usual knot in your stomach. You just saw the number and you let it be what it was. These moments are small. They don't add up to a changed life. They don't solve anything. But they are something. They are evidence that you are not just a machine running on fear and ambition. You are a person who can notice things, who can feel things, who can be present in a life that is happening right now. You think about the voice, the one that tells you to chase, the one that tells you that you are not enough. You have been listening to that voice for so long, you thought it was your own. But now you are starting to hear something else. A quieter voice. A voice that doesn't shout. A voice that doesn't push. A voice that just says you are okay. You are enough. You don't have to prove anything. You can rest. You can be. You can let go. You don't believe that voice yet. Not really. But you are starting to hear it. And hearing it is the first step. The first step towards something you don't have words for yet. Something like freedom. Something like peace. Something like coming home to yourself after a long time away. You sit in the quiet again tonight. The room is dark. The day is over. The chase can wait until tomorrow. And for now, you let yourself be. You let yourself be tired. You let yourself be scared. You let yourself be unsure. You let yourself be exactly where you are. Not ahead, not behind. Just here, just breathing, just being. And in the quiet you feel something you have been looking for. Not money, not security, not the next thing. Something simpler. Oh, something that was always there. Something that didn't need to be chased. Something that was waiting for you to stop running long enough to feel it. You feel it now. Just a little. Just enough to know it is real. Enough to know that you are not lost. Enough to know that you are here. And being here is enough. It has always been enough. You just never let yourself see it before. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. You don't know if you will wake up and go back to the old patterns. You probably will. But you also know that you will have these moments of stopping, these moments of being, these moments of remembering that there is more to you than the chase. And those moments will add up, slowly, quietly, in ways you can't see yet. And one day you will wake up, and you will realize that you are not running anymore, that you are here, that you are enough, that you always were. You let the quiet hold you. You let the night do its work. You let yourself be where you are. And for now, that is all you need to do. For now, that is everything. You wake up the next morning and the pattern is there. The pull toward the phone. The sense that you are already behind. The voice that tells you to check the numbers before you are even fully awake. You feel it all. And for a moment, you feel a kind of disappointment. A sense that nothing has changed. That the night before was just a night. That the quiet was just a pause. And now you are back to the same life. All the same chase. The same exhaustion. But then you notice something. You notice that you notice. You are aware of the pattern. You see it happening. And seeing it is different from being in it. Before, you were the pattern. You were the voice. You were the chase. Now there is a part of you that is standing outside of it. Watching. Not judging. Just watching. And that part is new. That part is what came from the quiet nights. That part is the thing that was waiting for you to stop running long enough to find it. You go through the morning the way you always do. Coffee, email, tort, ta. The rhythm of getting ready. But there is a small shift. A small space between you and the thoughts. A small awareness that you are not the thoughts. You are the one who hears them. You are the one who can choose to follow them or let them pass. You don't always choose to let them pass. Most of the time you follow, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just watch, and watching is enough for now. You think about the week ahead, the meetings, the deadlines, the things you have to do. The list is long. It is always long. But you look at it differently. You see it for what it is. A list, not a measure of your worth. Not a test you have to pass. Just a list of things that need to be done. Some of them matter. Some of them don't. Some of them are urgent. Some of them can wait. And you realize that you have the power to decide. You have been acting like the list is in charge, like it is something you have to obey. But the list is yours. You made it. You can change it. You can say no to the things that don't matter. You can prioritize the things that do. You can let go of the need to do everything. That thought is scary. Saying no means disappointing people. It means being seen as less than. It means risking the approval you have been chasing. But you are starting to see that approval is a trap. You have been chasing it your whole life, thinking that if you could just get enough of it, you would finally feel safe. But approval is never enough. It comes and goes. It depends on what other people think, and other people are always changing. What they want from you is always changing. You cannot build security on something that shifts like sand. You think about what it would feel like to let go of approval, to stop caring so much about what people think, to do what you need to do, even if it means someone is disappointed, to rest when you need to rest even if someone thinks you should be working, to say no even if someone thinks you should say yes. You imagine what it would feel like to be free of that weight, the weight of trying to be what everyone wants you to be, the weight of performing for people who are not even watching, the weight of carrying expectations that were never yours to carry. You want to be free of it. You know you want to be free of it, but you don't know how. The need for approval is deep. It was planted there a long time ago, before you had words for it. It grew with you. It became part of how you see yourself, part of how you know you are okay. If people approve, then you are okay. If people don't approve, then you are not. And that has been your compass for as long as you can remember. But you are starting to see that the compass is broken. It doesn't point to what you need. It points to what other people want. And what other people want is not always what is good for you. Sometimes it is the opposite. Sometimes what people want from you is exactly what you need to stop doing. You think about the people in your life, the ones who push you to do more, the ones who measure your worth by your achievements, the ones who make you feel like you are not enough unless you are doing something. You love them, but you also see that their approval comes with a price. The price is your peace, your rest, your ability to be still, your right to be enough without proving it. You don't know how to stop wanting their approval. You don't know how to want something else. But you are starting to see that there is something else, something that has been there all along, something that doesn't depend on what anyone thinks, something that is yours, not given by anyone, not taken by anyone, just there, waiting for you to notice it. You notice it in the moments when you are not performing, when you are alone and you let yourself be, when you are with someone and you forget to check your phone, when you are doing something you love and you lose track of time. In those moments you are not chasing approval. You are just being. And in those moments you feel something like freedom, something like yourself, something like home. You want more of those moments. You want to build a life where they are not just moments, where they are the foundation, where you are not running from approval to approval, but resting in something that is yours, something that no one can give you, and no one can take away. You think about what that life would look like. It wouldn't look like nothing. You would still work. You would still have responsibilities. You would still need money. But the work would be different. It would be work you chose. Not work you did to prove something. Not work you did to earn approval. Work that mattered to you. Work that felt like it was yours. You would still have goals, but the goals would be yours, not the ones you were told to have, not the ones that would impress people. Goals that came from something inside you, something real, but something that knows what you need. You don't know what those goals are yet. You haven't let yourself want them. You have been too busy wanting what you were supposed to want. But now you are starting to wonder, what do you actually want? If no one was watching, if no one was judging, If you didn't have to prove anything, what would you want? You let the question sit. You don't try to answer it. You just let it be there, in the quiet, in the space between the things you have to do, in the moments when you are not running. And you wait, not for an answer, just for whatever comes. What comes is not an answer. It is a feeling of wanting something softer, something slower, something that doesn't require you to be always on. A feeling of wanting to be with people who see you, not the version of you that performs, the version that is tired, the version that is scared, the version that doesn't have it all figured out. A feeling of wanting to be in a place where you don't have to be anything, where you can just be. You don't know how to get that. You don't know how to build a life that gives you that. But you know that it starts with wanting it, with letting yourself want it, with admitting that what you have been chasing is not what you need, that the security you have been looking for is not in the numbers. It is in something else, something that cannot be measured, something that can only be felt. You feel it now, just a little, in the quiet of the evening, in the space between the day that ended and the night that is beginning. You feel it like a thread that connects you to something you lost a long time ago, something you didn't know you were looking for, something that has been waiting for you to come back. You don't know where the thread leads. You don't know if you will follow it, but you know it is there, and knowing is enough for tonight, enough to let you rest, enough to let you be, enough to let you sleep without the weight of the chase pressing down on your chest. You close your eyes, and you let the quiet take you. You let yourself be held by the night. You let yourself be where you are. And for now, that is all you need to do. For now, that is everything. The days turn into weeks, and you start to notice something you didn't expect. The quiet moments are not changing your life. They are not making you richer or more successful or more secure. But they are changing something else. They are changing the way you feel when you are in your life. The way you feel when you wake up in the morning. The way you feel when you are walking from one place to another. The way you feel when you are sitting at your desk and the work is piling up and the voice is telling you to run. You feel less like a machine, more like a person. You feel the weight of the day, but you also feel the space around it. The moments when you are not running. The moments when you are just there. And those moments are not big. They are not dramatic. They are small. A breath before you answer an email. A pause before you say yes to something you don't want to do. A moment of looking out the window instead of looking at your phone. They are small, but they are yours. And they add up. You start to see the patterns more clearly. The way you reach for your phone when you feel uncomfortable. The way you say yes when you mean no. The way you fill your time with things that don't matter, so you don't have to sit with the things that do. You see these patterns and you don't judge them. You just see them, and seeing them gives you a choice to do something different. Not always, not perfectly, but sometimes, and sometimes is enough. You think about the money, the numbers, the way they used to feel like the most important thing. They still feel important. They are important. You need money to live, to be safe, to have options. But you are starting to see that money is not the thing. It is a tool that can give you freedom, or take it away depending on how you use it. You have been using it to chase a feeling that you would be okay if you just had a little more. But you are starting to see that the feeling does not come from the money. It comes from somewhere else, and no amount of money can get you there. You look at your bank account differently now. You see the number and you ask yourself a different question. Not do I have enough, but what do I need? What do I actually need to feel safe? Not what the fear tells me I need. Not what the world tells me I need. What I need. And you are not sure of the answer. But you are starting to see that the answer is smaller than you thought. Smaller than the number you have been chasing. Smaller than the life you have been trying to build. The answer might be something you already have. Something you have had all along. Something you just haven't let yourself see. You think about what you would do if you stopped chasing. If you let yourself have enough. If you let yourself rest in what you already have. What would you do with the time? The energy. The space that would open up. You don't know. But you want to find out. You want to see what is on the other side of the chase. What you've been missing while you were running. You start to experiment. Small experiments. You say no to something you don't want to do. You take a day off, and you don't check your email. You spend an afternoon doing nothing. Just sitting. Just being. You let yourself be bored. You let yourself be still. And in the stillness you feel something. Something you have been avoiding. Something that has been waiting for you to stop long enough to feel it. It is not a feeling you can name easily. It is a mix of things. Sadness. Relief. Fear. Hope. But all of them together. All of them real. You feel the sadness of all the time you spent running. The moments you missed. The connections you let go. The parts of yourself you left behind. You feel the relief of putting something down. Of not having to carry it anymore. You feel the fear of what comes next. Of not knowing who you are without the chase. And you feel the hope. The small hope that maybe there is something else. Something that has been waiting for you to find it. You sit with these feelings. You let them be there. You don't try to fix them or change them or make them go away. You just let them be. And in the letting you feel something else. Something underneath. Something that feels like you. Not the you that chases. Not the you that performs. The you that was there before all of this. The you that has been waiting. You think about the people in your life. The ones who have been there. The ones who have seen you through the chase. The ones who loved you, even when you were running. You think about the conversations you have avoided. The things you have not said. The ways you have kept yourself separate. You think about what it would be like to let them in. To let them see the part of you that is tired. The part that doesn't have it figured out. The part that is scared. You think about what it would be like to be known. Really known. Not for what you do. For who you are. That thought is terrifying. Being known means being vulnerable. Being vulnerable means risking rejection. And you have spent your whole life building walls to protect yourself from rejection. Walls that look like success. Walls that look like independence. Walls that look like having it together. But the walls are also cages. They keep people out, and they keep you in. You have been safe behind the walls, but you have also been alone. You want to let the walls come down. You know you want to. But you don't know how. You have been building them for so long. They are part of you now. Taking them down feels like taking yourself apart. And you are not sure what would be left. What would be left if you stopped performing? If you stopped chasing? If you let people see the real you? The one who is scared and tired and unsure? The one who doesn't have the answers? The one who is just trying to figure it out like everyone else? You think about the people you admire. the ones who seem real, the ones who don't pretend to have it all together, the ones who can say, I don't know, I'm scared, I'm tired, and they don't lose anything by saying it. They gain something. Connection, trust, the sense that they are not alone. You want that. You want to be that person. The person who can be real, who can let people in, who can let the walls come down and trust that what is underneath is enough. You are not there yet. You are still behind the walls. But you are starting to look at them differently. You are starting to see that they are not protecting you as much as you thought. They are keeping you from the thing you actually need. Connection. Condi. Belonging. Ponta di sapa la mara. The sense that you are not alone in this. The sense that there are people who will love you, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And who you are is enough. It has always been enough. You just never let yourself believe it. You sit in the quiet, and you let yourself feel the longing to be known, to be held, to be seen, the longing to let go of the chase and rest in something real. You let yourself feel it without trying to make it go away. You let it be there, and in the feeling you realize something. The longing is not a weakness. It is not something to be ashamed of. It is a sign that you are alive, that you are human, that you need things that money cannot buy, that you are not a machine, that you are a person. And being a person means needing to be seen, needing to be loved, needing to belong, needing to rest, needing to be enough without having to prove it. You have been denying those needs for a long time, telling yourself that you don't need anything, that you are fine on your own, that you can handle it. But you are not fine. You have not been fine. And it is okay to not be fine. It is okay to need. It is okay to want. It is okay to be human. You let that sink in. You let yourself be human. Tired, scared, unsure. Needing, wanting. Get over Saudi kundichter. Wanting, longing. Tut beweis. You let yourself be exactly where you are. Not ahead, not behind. Just here. Just human. And in the letting, you feel something shift, something loosen, something that has been tight for a very long time. You feel the walls not falling, but softening. Just a little, just enough to let a little light in, just enough to let a little air through. You don't know what happens next. You don't know if tomorrow you will wake up and go back to the old patterns. You probably will. But you also know that you have felt something real, something that was waiting for you, something that will be there again when you are ready to feel it. And one day, you will be ready. One day, you will let the walls come down. One day, you will let yourself be known. One day, you will stop chasing and let yourself rest in the thing you have been looking for all along, the thing that was never out there. The thing that was always in here, waiting for you to come home. You close your eyes, and you let the night hold you. You let yourself be tired. You let yourself be human. You let yourself be enough. And for now, that is all you need to do. For now, that is everything. The weeks turn to months, and you are still here, still waking up, still going to work, still doing the things you have to do. But there is a difference that is hard to put into words. It is not that you have changed your life. You haven't quit your job or moved to a new city or done anything that would look different from the outside. But something on the inside is different. Something has shifted, and you feel it in the way you move through your days. You feel it when you wake up, and the first thought is not about what you have to do. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it is about nothing. Sometimes you just lie there for a moment and let the morning be quiet. You feel it when you are walking to the train and you notice the sky, not because you are looking for something, just because it is there. You feel it when you are sitting at your desk and the work is hard, and you take a breath before you start. Not a breath that fixes anything, just a breath that reminds you that you are a person, that you are allowed to be tired, that you are allowed to take a moment. You feel it when you look at your bank account. The numbers still matter. They will always matter, but they don't mean what they used to mean. You see them, and you don't feel the same knot in your stomach. You see them, and you don't immediately think about how to make them bigger. You see them, and you ask yourself a different question. Do I have enough? Enough for what I need. Enough to feel safe. Enough to rest. And sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is yes. And you let it be yes. You don't move the goalposts. You don't tell yourself you need more. You just let yourself have enough. That is hard. Harder than you expected. Letting yourself have enough means letting go of the idea that more is better. It means trusting that you are okay with what you have. It means stopping the chase even when the chase is all you have known. And there are days when you can't do it. Days when the fear comes back and tells you that you need more. That you are not safe. That you are one step away from losing everything. On those days you go back to the old patterns. You check the numbers. You make the lists. You run. But you notice that the fear is not as loud as it used to be. Or maybe you are better at hearing it for what it is. A fear, not a fact. A feeling, not a truth. You think about the voice that has been driving you for so long. The voice that says you are not enough. You are starting to know that voice. You can hear it coming. You can feel it in your body before it even forms into words. The tightness in your chest, the knot in your stomach, the urge to do something, anything, to fill the space, to prove that you are okay. And now, when you feel it, you have a choice. You can follow the voice, or you can stop. You can take a breath. You can let the feeling be there without acting on it. You can wait. And most of the time you still follow the voice, but sometimes you don't. And the times you don't are teaching you something. They are teaching you that you can survive without running, that the fear does not have to control you, that you are stronger than you thought. You are stronger than you thought. You are starting to believe that, not because you have achieved more, not because you have more money or more security, because you have stopped. You have stopped. And you have faced the fear and the sadness and the emptiness. And you have not been destroyed. You have sat in the quiet and let yourself feel what you have been running from, and you are still here, still breathing, still you. And that is strength, not the strength that comes from pushing through. The strength that comes from being still, from letting yourself feel, from letting yourself be. You think about the people you have been running from, the ones you have been trying to impress, the ones whose approval you have been chasing. You see them differently now. You see that they are running too, chasing their own versions of enough, trying to prove their own worth, hiding behind their own walls. And you feel something you didn't expect. Not resentment, not judgment, something softer, Something like compassion. They are doing what you have been doing. Trying to feel safe. Trying to feel enough. Trying to find something that has been missing. And they are just as lost as you are. Just as scared. Just as human. You start to let go of the need for their approval. Not all at once. Not in a way that feels final. But slowly. In small moments. When you notice that you are performing for them. When you notice that you are saying yes to something you don't want to do. When you notice that you are shaping yourself into something you are not. You stop. You take a breath. You ask yourself what you want. What you need. And sometimes you do what you want. Sometimes you say no. Sometimes you let them see you. The real you. The one who is tired. The one who doesn't have it all figured out. And you are scared when you do it. Your heart pounds. Your hands shake. But you do it anyway. And nothing bad happens. They don't reject you. They don't disappear. Sometimes they see you and they stay. Sometimes they even see and in that seeing, something shifts. Something between you. Something that feels like real connection. You think about connection. About what it means to be with someone without performing. To be seen. To be known. To let someone see the parts of you that you have been hiding. It is terrifying. But it is also the thing you have been longing for. The thing that no amount of money can buy. The thing that no achievement can give you. The thing that has been waiting for you to let your walls come down. Your walls are still there. They have been there for a long time, but they are not as thick as they used to be. You have let cracks form. You have let light in. You have let air through. And in the cracks, you have found something you didn't expect. Not answers. Not solutions. Something simpler. Something like the beginning of trust. Trust that you can handle what comes. Trust that you are enough. Trust that you are not alone. You think about the future, the one you have been building, the one you have been chasing. You don't know what it looks like anymore. The picture is blurry. The goalposts have moved so many times. You have lost track of where they were supposed to be. But you are not as afraid of the blur as you used to be. You are starting to see that the future is not a place you get to. It is something you walk into every day. One day at a time. One choice at a time. One moment at a time. And the only thing that matters is what you do with this moment. The one you are in right now. This moment. You are sitting here, reading these words, breathing, being. And in this moment you are not chasing anything. You are not running. You are not performing. You are just here. And here is enough. It has always been enough. You just never let yourself see it before. You close your eyes and you let yourself feel it. The enough. The being. The quiet. You let yourself rest in it. Not because you have solved anything. Not because the chase is over. Because you are here. Because this moment is yours. Because you are allowed to rest. Because you are allowed to be. Because you are enough. Not when you get there. Not when you have more. Not when you finally figure it out. Right now, as you are, with what you have, with who you are. You don't know what happens next. You don't know if tomorrow you will wake up and go back to the old patterns. You probably will, but you also know that you have been here, that you have felt this. that you have let yourself be enough. And that is something you can carry with you. A small light, a small thread, a small knowing that no matter how far you run, you can always come back. Come back to this moment. Come back to yourself. Come back to the quiet place where you are already enough, where you always have been. You let the night hold you. You let the quiet be your home. You let yourself rest. And for now, that is all you need to do. For now, that is everything.